get up and get some money. Money was never real in the first place. You're the person that adds value to everything. So the fact that you just let a little bit of cotton, a little bit of metal, sit here and determine what you're worth, most importantly, is what are you working for? Money. In a what? Capitalistic slave-built society. Oh my goodness. So
Usually, how our goals work is that we tend to have this image of where we want to be. And the thing about this YouTube thing, I've been thinking about it, it's not going as planned as I want to. And I know a lot of times when we have goals, we tend to know that goals have steps to them. There's things we need to do to order to achieve these goals, and sometimes the time we have isn't fitting into the time frame we have for ourselves. And basically, it's okay to start over. Starting over doesn't mean that everything I have did for this has been a waste of time. Sometimes people like myself, we tend to reach this point where we realize the person we're trying to become isn't the person that you want to be anymore. And the scarier part about that is that it means admitting something wasn't working, but the great part about that is that you don't need permission from anybody else to change your direction and what you were wanting to do, because we tend to seek a lot of information about, oh well, should I change this, or should I do this, or how should I go about this, and we can tend to ask all these people these things, and now it's like it becomes a thing. So the moment you realize is one of the most heartfelt moments. It hurts, but at the same time, it's something that you've been knowing probably for a long time. You just didn't want to acknowledge it. You know what I mean? Um, we don't really prepare for the moment. We don't really prepare for the moment where we realize we need to start over. And it's not because things may look terrible, or our entire life fell apart, or some day we just realize, we just wake up one day and realize this isn't me anymore. Um, the things that you used to care about don't necessarily hit the same. It doesn't seem to bring out that emotion you'll usually feel. The people, you don't tend to be around the same people. Uh, you don't chase them anymore. They don't feel important to you anymore. Um, it's just a lot of things that come into starting over, and a lot of this has to do with cutting people off, or moving yourself, making yourself available to others, and that's okay, because the goals you thought you wanted start feeling like somebody else's goals, and you get to a point where you're like standing in a room and you're in the middle of your own life and you're wondering like, how did we get to this moment? And it's a strange place to be. It's very strange. It's new, and it's uncomfortable, and we hate being uncomfortable. We have to get used to being uncomfortable, and it doesn't mean we hate our life. You just don't know if you want to keep living it the same way. Um, it's hard admitting something doesn't work, because it's like you had this idea of where you put things together and it's just like falling apart. I think one of the hardest things we can do is admit something isn't working, because that means you have to stop defending it. We have to stop saying maybe it'll get better, or we have to stop convincing ourselves that we're happy. And sometimes we stay in situations simply because we're already invested so much into them. We spent months, years, we built memories around them, and that can be hard. It's like a relationship. It's like I'm with you, where we're in this together, and it's like you You can see the idea of the relationship is the girl or a boy, and you can kind of see that they are detaching from you. They aren't doing the things you want. They aren't bringing the pleasure you want. They aren't emotionally there. It's not able to. You don't see the future you wanted with them. Uh, so change your mind almost feels like you're admitting you're wrong. You were wrong. You were wrong. That's what it's kind of like doing. But that doesn't mean you're failing. That means you're growing. Sometimes it's growth finally becomes louder than your pride. You know, um, we don't have to stay loyal to a version of ourselves that we're trying to outgrow. You know, we have this thing where we have a fear of wasting time, and you start thinking, I come too far to start again, or I come too far to be giving up now. And it's like, no. But think about how much time you're going to lose just because you're scared to admit you need a different direction. And that is the trap. You're scared of wasting time you already spent. So you waste even more time by staying somewhere you don't belong. And eventually, you're not protecting the past anymore. You're sacrificing your future for it. And the time already passed. You can't negotiate with time. I done said this. Tomorrow is not promised. Tomorrow hasn't promised me or you. So don't spend tomorrow trying to justify yesterday. Don't. Do not spend tomorrow trying to justify yesterday because it's no. And now that you're starting over, you transition into new relationships, new friendships. Sometimes, a lot of times, starting over isn't just about your career or your goals. Sometimes it's people, and that's probably one of the hardest parts of starting. One of the hardest parts, versions of starting over, because you can know someone for years and still reach a point where you realize the relationship isn't healthy, and who you're becoming isn't healthy. And that doesn't automatically mean they're a bad person, but sometimes two people just stop going in the same direction. You can love somebody and still know that you can't keep giving them the same assets to you. You can't. You can appreciate everything somebody meant to you and still decide that you're moving forward without them. Not every goodbye has to necessarily mean you're being a villain, but sometimes you have to let people go, you know? And it's always okay to just put them in this category where I just hit you up when I get the chance, you know? And you have to basically learn how to start over with yourself. Starting over with yourself. You got to look at your own habits, your attitude, the way you talk to yourself, the things you tolerate, the excuses you keep repeating, the person you become when nobody is watching. Because it's easy to blame your environment, but you can't blame your environment when you're by yourself, when you're starting over. It's easy to blame your circumstances. It's easy to blame other people, but you cannot blame anybody when you're by yourself. But you're gonna have to eventually sit with yourself and ask, hey, is this what part of this is mine? Not so, and don't sit up, not don't sit up with yourself and be like, okay, let's step back. Let's stop blaming other people. Let's stop throwing it out. Let's don't blame our circumstances or anything that's going on. What are we doing? Which part of this is mine? And don't do this so you can hate yourself, but so you can finally take control of yourself. You're not starting from zero. This is what I need more people to understand. Starting over does not mean starting from nothing. You still have everything you've learned. You have learned from mistakes. You have the memories. You have lessons you've been taught. You don't know. You know what didn't work. You know what hurts you. You know what you don't want to do anymore. That's information. That's experience you need for this new goal you need to set up for yourself. And if it ain't past 21 days, you're good. 21 days can create a habit. So if you're just starting this, I mean, yeah, if it's been years and months, I can understand how hard it is. But sometimes we're at the point where we need to know when to stop. We don't need to try to always process everything. Yes, I get it. We all have emotions, but in today's age, we're watching these videos to know how to handle these circumstances. So to know that everybody else, we're not alone. You're not alone. You're not the only one experiencing this. A lot of us are young, 16 to maybe 18. We're young. So you aren't going back to the beginning. You're returning with experience. And people are going to talk. We say this every video. People are going to talk. They're going to have something to say. Somebody might ask you, "Oh, you changed," or "Oh," somebody might say, "You were doing better before," or "I might not recognize you anymore." Honestly, they don't have to. They don't need to recognize you. They don't need to recognize you. Why? Why would they need to recognize you? They knew the old version of you. They don't automatically get to decide what the new version looks like. You're allowed to disappoint people if the alternate version is disappointing yourself. You don't owe nobody an explanation of every chapter of your life. You're on your own journey. There's there's something I've been learning through this whole process of doing this documenting. When I started these videos, I didn't know what day 20 would look like. I didn't know I'd still be doing this. I didn't know what I'd be talking about. I didn't know where this was going. I still don't know where this is going. I just knew I wanted to start it. Ever since then, every day has taught me something different. Some days I talk, some days I work, some days I learn something new. Some days I probably didn't even know what I was doing. But that's kind of the point. I'm not documenting a finished life. I'm documenting the process of becoming somebody. So, to the viewer, maybe wherever you are, you're watching this somewhere in that place you are. Maybe you're questioning your direction in life. Maybe you've been holding on to something that you're scared of. What happened after you, and what happens after you let it go? You made a decision maybe some years ago, uh, and you realize that you don't belong anymore. You're embarrassed that you're starting later than you thought you would, or maybe you feel like everybody else is moving on and you're still standing here. Let me tell you something. You are allowed to change your mind. You are allowed to take a different road. You are allowed to rebuild. Nobody is holding you back. You are allowed to become somebody your old self wouldn't recognize. I think we treat starting over like it's a punishment. Like if we had to begin again, we suddenly fail. Because it takes courage to admit that it's not working, or you want something different, or you don't know exactly what comes next, but you know you can't stay here. That's not weakness, that's honesty. I'd rather be honest about where I'm going than spending years pretending I'm happy somewhere I don't belong. So, if you're thinking about starting over, do Not be ashamed of that blank page. It's a whole blank page. Paint that canvas. Don't let somebody else's timeline make you hate your own. You didn't lose everything. You learned, experienced, and survived. And now you get to decide what happens next. So, this is not the end of your story. Maybe this is the part where you finally start writing it for yourself. Today is day 20 out of 153. I'm still figuring it out. I'm still learning. I'm still becoming. Progress over perfection. Progress over perfection, y'all. Prince Wayne out.